Hey y'all, Rick Sky here. Welcome back to another Timepieces for Tomorrow video. And within this video, I'm going to provide a little bit of wristwatch acquisition advice. So again, if you're looking to have your collection reviewed, maybe you're wanting to add a piece, maybe you're wanting to trade or sell a piece and find something else, and you want to ask me for my professional opinion, simply email review@Timepieces for Tomorrow. Again, that's review@timepiecesfortomorrow.com. Completely free. It enables me to have a lot of fun producing the content, and obviously if you want to support my channel, you can super thanks, you can super chat, you can check out my merch store. And I know that the gentleman that I'm about to provide some wristwatch acquisition advice for has already generously supported my merch store, has super chatted, super thanks. I mean, it's incredible the amount of support. But even without that support, I still love content, so please feel free to email review@timepiecesfortomorrow.com. Again, completely free, completely anonymous. Tell me to refer to you by a first name or an alias. You know, obviously confidentiality is important for me as well. So let's jump right into the email from John. This is John. John says, "Hi, Rick's guy. Just wanted to follow up and get some wristwatch advice. So my collection currently stands Jaeger LeCoultre Master Calendar. Very nice. Rolex Yachtmaster 40 two-tone rose gold chocolate dial." Now don't try to eat that. That's not the kind of chocolate you want to eat, John. And then Tudor Black Bay GMT. I think he's got the Pepsi. And then the Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue. Speaking of Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue, that's what I'm wearing on my wrist right now. Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue. Great choice. Great choice. Tudor Black Bay 58 Navy. You really can't beat it. Right now I have in mind that I want to optimal 3 to 4 watch collection, and it's got to have, number 1, a nice dress watch. He's got that. Number 2, an X Factor watch that is not necessary for an everyday watch, but something I think is cool. I think I have it with the Yachtmaster 40, and I would agree. You know, the Yachtmaster has always been, it has definitely not been the dog of the Rolex range, but it's definitely a unique piece, and I like it. You know, it's kind of a mix between it is a sports watch, but because of the platinum bezel and, you know, other design elements. Now yours is the rose gold, but, you know, some of the older Yachtmasters of the platinum bezel, I mean, it just kind of stood out. It's always been a highly desirable piece, something that kind of steps between the sports watch and the dress watch category. And it's not seen on as many wrists as some of the other Rolex references. So yeah, I think you got that covered with the X Factor. Number 3, an everyday waterproof watch. Right now, this is satisfied with the 2 Tudors. And again, the 2 Tudors that he has, the Tudor Black Bay GMT, the Pepsi, or some people may refer to as the Diet Pepsi, and then also the Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue. So I've been thinking for number 3, maybe I should consolidate the 2 Tudors into a Rolex, date just perhaps smooth bezel, or Oyster Perpetual 41mm, or Submariner, or something. And for number 2, I find myself really liking the Yachtmaster, but now looking at the blue dial and rhodium dials and wanting those too. I feel like I would miss the current Yachtmaster if I traded it though. I ask you because I know you have that OP Oyster Perpetual 41, the OP 41. So perhaps you can shed some light on if it is that satisfying over the 2 Tudors. Or perhaps I'm just overthinking and getting on the hedonic, if you're not familiar with the word hedonic, it's derived from hedonism or hedonistic. Hedonistic is maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain. Should I just stick to what I've got? Kind regards, John. Okay, we're going to break this down, John, and I'm going to put my device down here where it's off camera, and I'm going to address all of your points. So, first of all, I think your collection right now is exceptional, and there's nothing I would get rid of. There's nothing I would consider getting rid of. The only thing, if I had to get rid of any of those, and I wouldn't even recommend this, I would be looking at the Tudor Black Bay GMT, the Tudor Black Bay GMT Pepsi. The only reason is, and again, this is personal preference, and it may not even be a pain point for you, but I wanted to like the Tudor Black Bay GMT, but I couldn't because of the case height. You know, if it was in the Black Bay 58 proportions, I think it would be the perfect GMT from Tudor. But it's just 2K tall. And it's funny I say that because I have the Tudor Black Bay Chrono, which is also kind of tall on the wrist, but proportionally I feel that the Tudor Black Bay Chrono, at least for my wrist, works well, and the Tudor Black Bay Diet Pepsi or the Tudor Black Bay Pepsi did not. Again, personal opinion, and I'm not in any way trying to steer you away from, I'm not trying to encourage you to trade or sell that Tudor Black Bay GMT, but out of all your wristwatches, that is the only one. I mean, even if you just went absolutely crazy and you had to, in your mind, you had to get rid of something, that would be the only one that I would even consider. I wouldn't even, there's no way I would consider any of the others. And then you say, right now I have in my mind that I want an optimal 3 to 4 watch collection, and it's got to have, number one, a nice dress watch. You've got it. Yeah, the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Calendar that you have, exceptional timepiece. Again, it's not part of the Holy Trinity. It's not Audemars Piguet. It's not Patek Philippe. It's not Vacheron Constantin, but it is a very highly regarded wristwatch. And as you know, I'm sure, Jaeger-LeCoultre, they make movements and provide some of the other, even some of the Holy Trinity brands, I think, they provide some of the Holy Trinity manufacturers movements. So, something to be aware of there. That is nothing. I mean, you've got that completely covered, and it's not an entry-level Jaeger-LeCoultre. I mean, that is a very nice example, very nice reference. You've got the dress watch covered, man. Good job there. That's all you need. Number 2, an X Factor watch that is not necessarily an everyday watch, but something I think is cool. I think I have it with the Yachtmaster 40. I think you definitely do. I mean, you've got the cool factor with the Yachtmaster 40. I mean, it's got Rolex on the dial. Whee! You're cool because it says Rolex. But not only does it say Rolex, but you've got a precious metals timepiece from Rolex that's not really a dress watch, and it is a sports watch, but I would say it's kind of the middle. It's kind of the funky thing in the middle, as you would say, the X factor. And that's definitely, if I was going to use a term to define the Rolex Yachtmaster, I think X factor is definitely it. Now, another X factor timepiece, and I know you don't have any Ulysses Nardin Freak. If you want to see something kind of weird and out there, man, check out the Ulysses Nardin Freak. Now, that's an interesting timepiece. Not my thing. I've tried them on the authorized dealers throughout the Caribbean. Not my thing. Very cool, though. Very cool X Factor. But I think your X Factor with the Rolex Yachtmaster 40, you're good there. And then you say, number 3, an everyday waterproof watch. Right now, this is satisfied with the 2 Tudors. Yeah, you got your GMT, which has a high-level water resistance with screw-down crown. And you've also got the Tudor Black Bay 58 Navy, which has a high degree of water resistance with screw-down crown, 200 meters, 660 feet. So you've got everyday waterproof watch. It's fine. You can swim with it. You can bang it into walls. You can take it in hot tubs. You can go party and have a good time with it. That's what it's made for, man. You got that covered. And then you said, so I've been thinking about, for number 3, maybe I should consolidate the 2 Tudors into a Rolex. No. No, you got the Tudors. You didn't probably buy the Tudors because you're like, man, maybe I can trade these later for a Rolex. And maybe that's what was in your mind. Maybe you're like, well, if I get 2 of these, they're probably less than half the price of a Rolex, so I could get 2 of these, and then potentially in the future, if they appreciate in value, maybe I could trade them for a Rolex. Maybe that was your end game. And if that was, don't let me steer you away from it. But if you're just wanting to liquidate the Tudors because you want a single Rolex, so 2 for 1, I don't know if I would do that. I think the 2 Tudors that you got, very desirable. I'll go as far as to say right now in today's market, if you're a buyer of Tudor, obviously the Tudor Black Bay 58, you got that covered. That's the number 1. I would say the number 2 Tudor would be the Tudor Black Bay Chrono. I think I remember from your previous emails, and I think that was you. I get a lot of emails, but I think you may have indicated you're not really a fan of chronographs. So if that's the case, then that would explain, why you're not in for the Tudor Black Bay Chrono, which is perfectly fine. And then let's see. And then the only other Tudor that's really desirable is the GMT, which you've got that. So you're good with the Tudors. If you had a dog Tudor, if you had a Tudor that was just kind of the trash of the range, I would tell you. But you're good with Tudors. Don't get rid of them. If you had some stuff, and I'll even go as far. I'm gonna have to open my door here. I'm getting a little bit hot. Sorry, I forgot to turn my HVAC. Forgot to turn my HVAC to an acceptable level, and I just got out of a hot shower. You know, hot shower, good Crown and Coke. I wanted to take my time with this. I didn't want to start sweating and have to rush. So now I'm cooled down. I got the HVAC adjusted. But yeah, like I was saying, with your tutors, you have not acquired any tutors that are undesirable. You know, again, the top 3 tutors, in my opinion, on today's market, you've got your Tudor Black Bay 58, which is number 1. You've got your Tudor Black Bay Chrono, which I'll say is number 2. And then I'll say number 3 is probably the Tudor Black Bay GMT. So, you know, and there's other tutors out there. And the thing that steered me away from the Pelagos, even though the FXD is very hyped right now, the thing that steered me away from the Pelagos, it's titanium. And number 2, I've seen a lot of things, and I hope this wouldn't happen, but I've seen pictures of the loom on the bezel, which looks incredible on the Pelagos, but I've seen pictures where that loom, it had fallen out. And I've seen multiple pictures. So it doesn't seem to be one individual trying to taint the reputation of that timepiece, but the fact that loom could even potentially fall out just steered me away from the Pelagos. Now the North Flag, which has been discontinued, if you had that, I would tell you to keep it. I mean, that's an exceptional piece. And I still regret passing up on the North Flag. But I can't have regrets, because when I passed up on the North Flag, I got the Breitling Super Ocean Heritage 2 in 42mm on shark mesh, which is great. But looking back, I should have gotten the Tudor North Flag, because it was recently discontinued, and the Super Ocean Heritage 2 from Breitling is very plentiful. But you can't predict the future all the time. But yeah, your tutors, don't get rid of them, man. Don't get rid of them. Don't get rid of them. And you're saying, you were thinking about consolidating the 2 tutors into a Rolex, date just, perhaps a smooth bezel, or Oyster Perpetual 41, or Submariner, or something. And then number 2, find myself really liking the Yachtmaster now, looking at the blue dial and rhodium dials and wanting those too. I feel like I would miss the current Yachtmaster if I traded it though. Yeah, don't trade your Yachtmaster, man. I've already expressed that. You do not need to trade that Yachtmaster. Keep that Yachtmaster. And I ask you because I know you have that OP41. Actually, I don't have the OP41. I have the now discontinued OP39, the Oyster Perpetual 39mm with the white dial with the polar dial. So it's 39mm. We're going to dive into that here in just a second, OP41 versus OP39. So perhaps you can shed some light on if it's that satisfying over 2 tutors. So would I preference the Oyster Perpetual over 2 tutors? In my case, the 2 tutors being the Tudor Black Bay 58 and the Tudor Black Bay Chrono Reverse Panda. We're going to get into that. He says, or perhaps I'm just overthinking and getting on the hedonistic treadmill. Should I just stick with what I've got? So I'll break it down. I'll break it down like it is. So you've gotten addicted to this, and I'll just, I'll throw my own term in there, but you've gotten addicted to the wristwatch acquisition. So, you've got all your pieces are exceptional. There's nothing in your current collection that I would frown upon. It's great. You've done a good job. Pat yourself on the back. You've done a really good job. John, you've done a great job. John, good job. You've done an excellent job. But with that being said, see, you look at these, and then you're like, okay, I'll insert myself into your mind. So you got this great collection. You've got the Yachtmaster, you got the Jaeger-LeCoultre, you got the the 2 tutors, and in your mind you're thinking, okay, tutor is kind of subpar. And in your mind you're thinking, well, what if I got rid of these 2 less desirable timepieces and got something, and that's where you're getting into this. You're thinking, okay, well, should I get rid of the 2 tutors and get a date just, or an OP4 Oyster Perpetual 41? You're really, and then your other thing, you've been thinking about maybe I should consolidate the 2 tutors into a Rolex date just, perhaps a smooth bezel. Don't get the smooth bezel, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, or the Oyster Perpetual 41, or sub or something. If you were going to consolidate the 2 tutors for anything, given that you've got the Tudor Black Bay 58 and you've also got the GMT, if you were going to consolidate those 2 for anything, those 2 would need to become, I would say, the Submariner. or those two would need to become, you know, if you could get a GMT Master 2. I wouldn't consolidate those two into a Datejust, but if I did, if you just had to do that, I would go with the fluted bezel over the smooth bezel. Now, I know my Oyster Perpetual 39 has a smooth bezel, and I know the Oyster Perpetual 41 that you've been talking about has a smooth bezel. It looks good if you're careful with it, but it's not something you're going to want to wear unless you don't mind the scratches, because it is going to scratch. And, you know, a case in point here, and I don't wear the Oyster Perpetual 39 that much, but I do wear the Panerai Luminor quite a bit. And it's got, I mean, obviously it's on a larger scale, it's 44 millimeters, but the Panerai Luminor has that smooth bezel, you know, so it's a, you know, it's a tool watch. It's a sports, you know, bang it into anything watch. So it doesn't really matter that it scratches up, but the bezel, the smooth bezel of my Panerai Luminor is scratched to heck and back. And that's fine. I mean, I expect it to be. You know, I swim with it, I bang it into walls, I wear it like it's meant to be worn. But if scratches bother you, you know, especially if you're getting something like an Oyster Perpetual 41, which does have proper water resistance, you know, it's a Rolex Oyster with a screw down crown. I mean, you can swim with it, you can do whatever, but be aware that that smooth bezel is going to highlight those scratches and imperfections, and especially in contrast with the bracelet, because you look at the bracelet of the Oyster Perpetual, you know, it's a brushed finish. So when you got a brush finished bracelet, brushed on the top lugs, you know, when you've got, are they brushed on the top? I'd have to look at a Oyster Perpetual 41 again. But you've got the brushed against the polished. When that bezel starts to scratch, that smooth bezel, it's no longer a smooth bezel, and it looks, and maybe you don't mind that look, you like the worn look, but I look at an Oyster Perpetual as kind of more of a dress watch, but it's also a sports watch. Again, high degree of water resistance. But if I was going to go Datejust, and I know it's a little bit more for the white gold Jubilee bezel, the white gold fluted bezel, but I would go, since you've already got, let's see, your Yachtmaster is, let's see, rose gold. So you got rose gold. I would go with white gold fluted bezel on a Datejust if you're going to do anything. Yeah, the fluted bezel with white gold is softer than stainless steel. When you're looking at the OP41 with the domed, with the dome type bezel instead of a fluted bezel, the stainless steel is harder, but it's still going to scratch. That white gold on the Datejust it's still going to scratch too, and it's going to actually show scratches more than the smooth bezel. But the thing about it is that because of the design characteristic of the fluted bezel, it's got the little ridges. It's not going to be that noticeable by people looking at it or you looking at it yourself. Something else I want to caution you about, if you do consider the Oyster Perpetual 41 millimeter, keep in mind, look at the dial of it, and a lot of people don't realize this, but look at the previous generation 39 millimeter Oyster Perpetual. It's discontinued. That's the one like I've got with the white dial, the polar dial. Look at the batons. The Oyster Perpetual 41, not only is it a 2 millimeter larger case, but those double batons. People made that a point of controversy when they first released, and because the Rolex market right now, the secondary market is so insane, and you can't find pretty much any authorized dealer, even if you have a relationship with any stock. So people have started to overlook that, but I think for the long haul, people are going to really bring out again that, oh, well, the Oyster Perpetual 41, number one, the case size is too large at 41 millimeters, and then number two, they're going to really emphasize, oh, those double batons look terrible. So I think if I was looking at Oyster Perpetual, I would be trying to find a 39 millimeter. And, you know, I mean, it doesn't have to be the white dial, because I know, you know, that's the hard to find. That's a desirable one. I got, you know, I considered myself to have been a forward thinker at the time. I'm like, you know, this is something I want to add. Again, I don't wear it that much because I don't want to scratch up the, you know, the smooth bezel. But it is a very comfortable timepiece. And I will tell you, and again, this, as you know, the Black Bay 58 is 39 millimeters. It wears very similarly to the Black Bay 58. Obviously, it doesn't have the dive bezel, but when you look at it on your wrist, talking about the Oyster Perpetual 39, it looks, because it's got the white dial, it looks visually about the same size as the Tudor Black Bay 58. So it's a good size. I would not want, and again, I've got a 7.5-inch wrist. I personally would not want an Oyster Perpetual larger than 39 millimeters. I think you're getting into, once you get over 40, you're getting into the true sports watch size on the wrist. And I think that 41 millimeters for the Oyster Perpetual, for what it is, I think that's a little bit excessive. So I would, I mean, honestly, I mean, this is, and John, I'll tell you what I think. I have no problem with sharing my opinion. You got these great timepieces. Again, just to recap, you've got the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Calendar. Awesome. Perfect dress watch. One and done. You're good. Rolex Yachtmaster 40. Again, that's your X Factor watch, as you call it. And that's two-tone with the chocolate dial. Makes me hungry. That's exceptional. You got your X Factor watch, you're good. So those two timepieces, and you didn't even mention them within your email. I mean, you told me you had them, but you didn't mention them as a point of controversy. But you got these two Tudors. So in your mind, you can't wear the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Calendar all the time, which is understandable. It's a dress watch. It's very fragile. It's on a leather strap. Understood. So that's a wristwatch you wear for formal events. That's a wristwatch, you get on, I don't know your marital status or whatever, but, you get on some dating website, pick up some chick, and you're just like, hey, you want to go out to a nice dinner, and you go out and eat, and you put on your Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Calendar, and she's like, what's that on your wrist? And you're like, JJ LeCoultre. Huh? No, whatever. I mean, you can only wear the JLC in places where you're not going to get wet. You're probably not going to bang it into walls or whatever. So that's a special events timepiece. Whether it's a great date, whether it's some sort of interview, some sort of corporate function that won't involve alcohol, which means you wouldn't probably jump in a hot tub or a pool or an ocean. You got to be very careful where you wear that Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Calendar. So that's what makes that kind of an oddball. You can wear it in controlled environments only. The Rolex Yachtmaster two-tone Rolls Gold, it's awesome. I mean, it's highly water resistant, but the fact that it is a precious metal, it's a two-tone timepiece, it draws attention. So even though it's capable of being worn pretty much anywhere, hot tub, swimming pool, ocean, wherever you want to go, the fact that it has that two-tone design, you could unintentionally draw attention. So for that reason, it's not a timepiece you can wear anywhere. If you're going out, you're hustling, you're going out, you're getting some work done, you're meeting with clients, and then you're like, well, we got to go sell here, we got to sell there. You're going all over wherever, and you might pass through some areas that are high crime areas, and if you do, that would be a timepiece that would unintentionally draw attention. So you're limited to where you can wear that. It's not because of the water resistance properties. Like the Jaeger-LeCoultre, that was about the fragileness of the design, the leather strap, not the water resistance. But with this one, the water resistance is there, so you're good there, but because it's two-tone, it's kind of flashy. You're kind of limited to where you can wear it. The Tudor Black Bay GMT and the Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue, both stainless, still sports watches. Nothing. You got to kind of be in the know if you wear it. Okay, well that's a cool wristwatch. If you're going to get mugged, they come up and they're like, oh, I thought it was a Rolex. They see your Tudor Black Bay GMT, they may think it's a Rolex Pepsi. But when they see it, like, what's that? That's not a Rolex. That's a knockoff. So you might get lucky, but that Tudor Black Bay GMT might draw attention because it kind of looks like, on the wrist, it kind of looks like a Rolex Pepsi. The Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue, it's got its own identity. Unless you're a watch collector, which obviously you are, you probably wouldn't want it. I mean, the best thing that you can relate the Tudor Black Bay 58 to is a vintage Rolex Submariner. And it's got the DNA with the oyster bracelet and the no crown guards and the proportions. But again, it's a wear anywhere watch. So in your mind, your dilemma is that you've got a dress watch you can only wear in controlled environments. You've got a sports watch, but because it's two-tone, you're limited to where you can or want to wear it. And then you've got in your mind these two Tudors. You probably got them because, I mean, Tudor's great. Don't get me wrong. I love Tudor. But you got them and you're like, okay, these are the two least desirable timepieces in my collection. And in your mind, you want to consider liquidating those two. You've probably been watching the gray market prices. You've probably seen at least the temporary pullback, not just Rolex, not just Tudor, but pretty much across the board, except for the ultra hyped core reference timepieces that are out there. You've probably noticed a pullback, and even a lot of those have pulled back their price on the gray market. And you're probably thinking, okay, well, maybe I should get out of these Tudors for a potential small increase. And that's probably all you would get over MSRP right now. Assuming you bought them at MSRP, you would probably get a small increase at best at this point in time. So you're thinking, okay, well, in your mind, you might be able to at least break even. So if you could break even, you could potentially convert that into cash. And if this market continues to decline, which I'm not a wizard, I can't say it's going to or not, but in your mind, you could potentially be sitting on cash. And when and if the market rapidly corrects, when and if it does, and when and if Rolex supply is plentiful again, in theory, you could potentially walk into an authorized dealer and potentially have a variety of Datejust and Oyster Perpetuals 41s to choose from at the authorized dealer. And you could potentially possibly have enough cash to be able to get that. So I kind of see your thought process here. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing it solely because you feel like you could do that and get into the Rolex if the market conditions did become correct, there's always a possibility. Timing is everything. When I acquired the Oyster Perpetual 39, again, I'm not a flipper. I'm not a wristwatch investor, but I do like quality stuff that I can wear and will hopefully appreciate. I never thought that the Oyster Perpetual 39 would increase well over double what I got it for. I mean, that's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But, sometimes things happen. Do I want to get rid of it? I've entertained the possibility. And, kind of like where I think you may be with your two Tudors, I've thought about that with the Oyster Perpetual 39 because I'm like, well, what if potentially this is the top of the market? Maybe it's going to collapse after this. What if potentially I exited the OP39 and then I set the cash aside and then I would have, more than enough to get, and what I would want a root beer, a GMT Master root beer, and that's a two-tone. I don't have any two-tone or precious metals pieces. So, I've entertained that idea in my mind. Will I jump on it? I'm not sure because there's value, in my opinion, of a Rolex that's been discontinued, especially a Rolex with a white dial, a polar dial, because they tend to be a lot more desirable. So I'm kind of on the fence. My best advice is this, man. John, you seem like a smart cat. You've started out, you got a great wristwatch collection already. I mean, you're not struggling for funds to fuel this addiction. My best advice would be to sit on those two Tudors, because those two Tudors are two wristwatches that you can wear. You can comfortably wear them and not worry about it. Tudor is Rolex's sister brand, so the annual price increases will likely continue. Maybe not every year, but every few years or so. In a few years, they'll probably be worth more on the secondary market than they were at retail a few years prior. I mean, nothing's guaranteed, but since it is Rolex's sister brand, I think you're probably pretty safe there. So I wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of them. Now, with the market conditions that we've seen throughout the past year or so, will those continue? Will we continue to see this rapid wristwatch price increase? I don't know. Have we hit the peak? Is the wristwatch market about to correct rapidly? Or is this just a temporary dip before it really rebounds I don't know. I mean, I'm not a wizard. You know, I can't predict that. But the main thing is this: is that you've got two Tudors. You've got a GMT, and you've got the the wind and wear, no date, Black Bay 58. Nothing wrong with those. You can wear them anywhere. They're respectable timepieces, and I wouldn't feel bad about that. I wouldn't feel in a rush. You know, I know you want to add something else. You know, my best advice is this. You know, start a side hustle. You know, come up with something that you can do, and the sole purpose for that side hustle would be to acquire an Oyster Perpetual 41, a Submariner, or a Datejust. And again, I wouldn't go for the Datejust with the smooth bezel. I would go for the fluted bezel. And ultimately, if I was you, I would set my sights on the Datejust Wimbledon. You know, the Wimbledon dial. I think that's awesome. Well, actually, now wait, do they have it in white gold? I know it's yellow gold. You need something in white gold. You need a Datejust. Maybe go with the blue dial. The blue dial Datejust with a fluted bezel and a Jubilee bracelet. I think that right there would be great. And you don't, again, start a side hustle. I mean, go out and mow some grass, man. Get you a lawnmower. Get you a discounted lawnmower. Go out and mow some grass and save up that money for when the Rolex authorized dealers have stock again. I mean, you don't need to feel like you need to let go of these Tudors. Because two Tudors, you got variety. Do you need to add more than two Tudors? People have different opinions. There's a lot of people that feel that Tudor is the next Rolex, and I'm kind of thinking that, because I do feel. And, if the market rapidly corrects, it may slow down the progression, but I do feel that Tudor has positioned itself. It's used the lack of supply of Rolex to draw more people to it. They're like, well, there's a large camp of people that are like, well, I can't get a Rolex, but I can still get a lot of Tudors at retail. So they've experienced a brand, and once they put it on their wrist, just like me, it's like, wow, that feels good. It's got great case proportions. It's got the Rolex DNA. Obviously it doesn't say Rolex on the dial. It doesn't have the Mercedes hands. It's got the snowflake, but it's different design characteristics, but that similar wrist feel and overall quality. So I don't know what the future is going to bring for Tudor, but my best advice is to stick to what you like. And there's nothing wrong with holding on to those Tudors. Definitely don't let go of the Jaeger-LeCoultre. Definitely don't let go of the Yachtmaster. If you have to let go of one, let go of the GMT. But I wouldn't even do that. Just, again, start a side hustle. Start a YouTube channel. Start talking about watches. Whatever you want to do. Whatever you can come up with to create, additional income that you can use to pursue. As you mentioned in your... I'm going to pull it back up here in your email. You said, or perhaps I'm just overthinking and getting on the hedonic treadmill. Should I just stick with what I've got? You should stick with what you got, because you are on what you said is the hedonic treadmill, and I like that. Hedonic treadmill, crazy stuff, man. Now, speaking of hedonic treadmill, so here's a story for you. So I was going to go to Jamaica, and it was a place called Hedonism in the Grill, and it's a resort, and it's all about partying and this, that, and the other. And that's a long time ago. But hedonism is maximizing pleasure, minimizing the amount of pain. One of the craziest places I've ever been in the world. One of the craziest places I've ever been. So, if you're on the fence about, you're definitely on this hedonic treadmill. If this wristwatch collection addiction is giving you so many troubles, what I would recommend doing, go somewhere like Hedonism in the Grill. Just party and have a good time, because it's a great place, man. They had open bar, they had jerk chicken on the beach, and I mean it's an experience. I mean it's definitely. They had fire eaters at night. Fire eaters would come out on the beach and eat fire. And then they had this indoor, it was like a big carnival, indoor, like tall ceilings. It was like a big tent looking thing. Crazy place, man. So, you know, if you're struggling with your wristwatch addiction, if I was you, I would go to hedonism in Jamaica. And I don't know, man. John, I'm trying to give you, my best advice here. But again, just to recap, or perhaps I'm just overthinking and getting on the hedonic treadmill. Should I just stick with what I got? Stick with what you got. Start a side hustle. Start 2 side hustles. Start 5 side hustles. Make that extra disposable income. And as you make that, then see what you want to acquire. But don't let go of what you got, because what you got's great. And it's not just a great foundation, but it's a great collection. But I know you. I know you well enough from all the emails you've sent me, everything you've sent. I mean, you're addicted to this. And, you've got, you've got JLC, Rolex, Tutor. You got 4 timepieces right now. And that's not enough, man. It's more than enough for a lot of people, but for you, it's not enough. And in your mind, see, you would let go of those 2 tutors, and that would put you down to 2, and then that would still enable you to get 3. So if you got rid of those 2 tutors, and say you did get the Datejust, then you would have a JLC, a Rolex, and well, actually it had 2 Rolex, because you had the Rolex Datejust, the Rolex Yachtmaster, and the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Calendar. And then that would leave 1 more spot, which the fact that you would get rid of 2 for 1 just suggests that you're still not going to be happy, because you're going to have 3 at that point if you did that, which means, okay, well, what's the next one going to be? And obviously you wouldn't trade or sell any of your 3 to get the 4th. So where I'm going with this is that you need to create that additional revenue stream, whatever it may be. Come up with a side hustle, mow some grass, whatever you need to do to make that extra money, because even if you don't do it now, and if you do it now, you're going to be adding a 5th timepiece. But if you let go of those 2 tutors may be able to afford the 3rd piece, but you're still going to need that money for the 4th. You tell me what you think. And John, I really appreciate it. Thanks again for all of your merch purchases. I really appreciate that, man. That helps to support my channel. And everyone that's watching this, if you want me to provide wristwatch acquisition advice or to review your collection, it could be 1 timepiece, it could be a multi-million-dollar collection, I don't care. Send me an email, review@timepiecesfortomorrow.com. And if you want to support the channel and videos like this, you can look down below. It says thanks. It's a little icon below the video. You can choose to click that, and you can choose to support my channel. It's a great way to financially support my channel. Obviously not required. The most basic form of support is just simply liking this video, subscribe to my channel, sharing with others, commenting below. But if you want to take it to the next level, you can choose to super thanks. You can check out my merchandise, and you can send me, if you want to email me a review, or if you want to ask me for wristwatch acquisition advice, that helps. I really enjoy this. Thanks for your viewership. And John, whatever you do, I know that that every decision you seem to make is probably well thought through, and it'll be well executed. And whatever you choose to do, I support your decision, as long as you don't get rid of the Jaeger-LeCoultre or the Rolex Yachtmaster. I support your decision, but ultimately I wouldn't get rid of either, and I would increase your requirements to at least a 4-piece collection. And I think that 5th piece, again, start your side hustle, do whatever you need to do to make that money and make it happen. But if you do let go of 1, only let go of the GMT. And if you let go of 2, man, you're desperate, because then you're going to have a 3-piece collection, which is going to leave that 1 that you don't have anything that you should trade or sell to acquire that 4th piece. So think long and hard. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day. And be sure to ring that bell icon when you do to be notified whenever I post another video. See y'all later. Thanks again for watching this video, and want to remind everyone, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell icon when you do to be notified whenever I post another video. And if you've got a wristwatch or a wristwatch collection that you'd like for me to try to review with an upcoming video, send me an email, review@timepiecesfortomorrow.com. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day.